Hey, I'm Bill DeVille, and I'm here with the band Valley. They have a brand new album that's just on the way. It drops on the 30th of August. It's called Water the Flowers, Pray for a Garden. Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hey, I'm Alex from Valley.
I'm Karah from Valley.
Hi, I'm Rob from What They Say.
From Valley.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice to see you all. The first thing I noticed about you, it's hard to Google your name. Was that by design?
We did design it that way. We didn't want to be found.
Yeah, we want it to be mysterious. I think it's changing slowly. I feel like you have to type in Valley
If
Band,
you look up
I
Valley
guess.
Band, you'll find us. But if you
Yeah.
just type Valley, they'll be like, what Valley?
Yeah,
Well,
I
there's
feel
a-
like it's like that until it's not. I feel like we have a few friends that have pretty funny band names where it's like, yeah, you have to really give context to Google. I feel like for the first few years when Coldplay was around, when
Yeah.
you typed in Coldplay, Google was like, what the hell does that mean?
What's a
What is it?
Depends
So
what
when I
Google
Googled you, I found
algorithm you're on.
this music paper from Middle New York, the valley there, the Hudson Valley.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's talk about the brand new album. How is this one different than your previous work?
Ooh,
I
different.
think it's in a way a return with a
Their Saturn
maturity.
Return album.
It's our Saturn Return album, but with a maturity to it that I think we've been doing this for a long time, and we've finally kind of come back around to what we love, taste wise, and I guess maybe what we love writing about. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we just started making music seriously again. Because I think for like 3 years up to our last record, like we basically had a weird kind of period where we put out 2 EPs during the pandemic and then like an album. And I've been reflecting on it a lot, and I realized I just didn't think we didn't take it seriously enough. And in a sense, we did take it very seriously. The songs still are great, and we put a lot of heart into them. But I think we just forgot that like making songs and making art and whatever we do is like so important. And I think we forgot a little bit about that because we got sucked into the vortex that you do once you have some success. You get sucked into this vortex of like, well, now your job is to make songs. And it's like, yes, but it's so much more than that because it's like our life. It's a lifestyle that we live. And it's so important to express ourselves and do this thing. And I don't know, I think we left it by the side a little bit. So this is a very much, like Alex said, a return to like the seriousness of how we take what we get to do, because it's such a privilege, but it's also such a service, I think, to ourselves to be able to take this seriously and make songs that we really believe in and express ourselves and put our entire life story in a thing. And yeah, this album just feels like a very return to like how we started the band, because the first 3 years of starting the band felt like what the band feels like now. So it's just a full circle.
You're 10 years in now.
Yeah.
Did you think it would last? I mean, when you formed back in, was it 2014?
I didn't see myself doing anything else. I saw it's weird because like I feel like when you're a kid you see this like bright future and all these possibilities. Not to say we don't have that.
Yeah.
But I think when we started the band, at least for myself, I didn't look forward and see anything aside from the band. So
Did you all have that kind of light bulb moment? It's like, this is what I want to do. I want to be in a band.
You kind of have to, though.
Yeah.
Like you kind of have to be a little insane because like when you look at it on paper, when you're like 15 years old and you put your hands and you're like, we're going to start a band and we're going to make this our life and we're going to tour the world and we're going to do all these things. You have to be a little crazy to think that, believe and follow your dreams. But I feel like anyone that really goes for it has to have just that right amount of like insanity to think that it's actually possible. So
The thing is, there's actually no thought put into it, and I think
it
that's
just happened, huh?
it just happens.
Yeah, like like the best things in life are the things that you are sort of just doing and taking action on. And like I think when you start thinking about the act of following a dream, you're not actually doing it. Like nobody is. You can't preach, like nobody preaches something that they just know is in existence. Like nobody goes around town being like, the sun is gonna rise tomorrow, everybody, the sun's gonna rise, like I'm telling you. Everyone's like, we know, but like you don't go around being like, I'm gonna be a musician when I grow up, like I'm gonna do it. Like we all had a moment before we even met, like we knew what we were gonna do. We knew it was the way of our life. And I feel like that's just it. Like you don't think about that when you're 9 years old or however old we were when we decided we wanted to do it our whole lives. And then we met each other and we're like, oh yeah, this makes sense.
How
Okay,
did
great.
you meet, speaking of which?
Similar
studio.
room to this that we're in right now, which is funny. Yeah, our friend, my sister in high school had this friend that was like a recording engineer, and he like worked at a studio. Big deal at the time, because when you're young, you're like, studio, whoa, like the movies. And then so we literally went in. Me and Alex were in a separate band, and then Karah and Mickey were in a separate kind of project. And me and Alex just booked some time at this, at my sister's friend's studio
to mess around.
To mess around with amps.
Nothing
and
serious.
mics.
That was the funny thing. Like, it wasn't like we didn't go in being like, let's record this song.
No,
We just went in doing nothing.
And it was similar to
Messing
this.
around.
I remember me and Alex were in the live room where we are right now, just tweaking some amps. And then through the studio window, Karah and Mickey were like working on a mix of a song at the console, literally with
Saw
Steve,
them,
his name
and
was.
then they hid behind.
And then they hid behind us. And then we realized we got double booked. So we just like kind of went to our friend Steve. We're like, dude, we're supposed to be in the control room now, but they're in there. And it's turned into this whole kind of serendipitous thing. And then, like you said, 10 years later, the band just kind of snowballed from that night. We just kind of got together, kept working on songs. Then we went, Karah and Mickey were playing like an open mic night. We like went and saw that. And then we were like, we have to start a band. And then we kind of just started the band. It was very like, I don't know, it was kind of like a movie. It just kind of happened.
Yeah. So you guys are from Toronto. Toronto has kind of a rich history of music. I wrote down a few names. The Beaches, they were just here in our studio, and they're friends of yours, right?
Yeah,
Good friends of ours, yeah. We're
Karah
playing-
wrote a few songs on their last record.
Yeah.
She's
That's
like
really
amazing.
cool. And there's Broken Social Scene, of course, with Feist and
Legends.
Cowboy Junkies, who recorded their Trinity Session album at a church in Toronto. You probably even know the church,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
the Trinity Church.
Oh, the Trinity Church.
Okay.
Yeah.
And probably most famously, Rush.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were just talking about Neil Peart the other day.
Yeah. Well, somebody was like, I think they looked at Karah and they were like, so?
It was Joe Cool.
Joe Cool.
Joe Cool,
He
our
was
friend
like,
Joe.
so what do you think? Neil Peart?
Yeah.
And you were like, yeah, I love
I guess
Neil
a
Peart.
lot of I find
R.I.P.
when we're in America, a lot of people when we talk about drummers, they automatically go to Neil Peart, they know from Canada, which I think is awesome because I would say he's one of the best.
Rush is one of the
Canada has a very good output of music.
Oh, yeah.
Historically, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm-
There's
It
so
seems like
many.
there's more musicians per capita there than there is in the
I
States
didn't
by
want to
far.
say it,
Yeah.
but I agree with you.
We have a really good funding system, similar to Australia.
Yeah.
The government really wants an export to be art, which is great. And I think Sweden is the same with their, you get paid to go to school.
That's
to go
awesome.
to production school in Sweden. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's not quite the level that we're at in Canada, but there's millions of dollars that they
Yeah, a lot of
output for
opportunity. I mean, we
grants.
took advantage of it. Not took advantage. We literally couldn't have started the band without the funding in Canada.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of the artists you mentioned, same thing.
Yeah.
Started out with those
I think
government
half of
grants and
our-
stuff.
Half of our first record was paid for
Yeah,
by,
it's incredible.
by grants
Yeah.
and
It
all
has
that
to be
stuff.
made in Canada or parts of it, but there's ways.
There's ways.
So Toronto's basically a good place to be for a musician.
It's
you
Yeah.
think?
great.
Absolutely,
If you're
yeah.
a Canadian citizen, it's great because
Yeah.
you can't get the funding unless you're a Canadian citizen. It's kind of
Yeah.
lame, but yeah.
So you had a song called Like 99. It kind of blew up during the COVID-19 pandemic.
We did.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us
did.
about that experience and that song?
Well, it all happened very quickly. The intention was not for a song to blow up at any time during that. I mean, it's obviously a blessing, in disguise when that does happen, but I don't think we were looking for that to happen at that time. We had gone away for a writing trip to finish up a bunch of music that we were working on for our second EP. And it was at the very beginning of this trip too. It just we put a TikTok up. TikTok was also very new at the time. Anybody could go viral,
Right.
and we were anybody. And one of our songs went viral, and it was that song. And the label and everybody was jump on it, do it in 3 days. And so we finished it. I think it was 3, maybe 4 days from the song, the inception of the song being written with our really good friend Charlie Adams and Johnny from Nightly, and yeah, we just had to rush it out basically. And it was a great experience,
Yeah. It's funny. I analogy I've been using for it a lot is if I'm trying to nail this right. If songs are kind of like tattoos, you know what I mean?
They're forever.
They're forever. Yeah. But, as you grow and change, sometimes sometimes you cover one up, or sometimes you're a little shy about one that you got earlier on. And I feel like the go-to answer for this, truthfully, would be like, we're so embarrassed of that song. And
That's
like,
the ex-girlfriend.
that song does not define where we are, and that song does not define where we're going and who we are now.
I
but
agree.
I've learned to live with the idea that I'm really thankful for that song. That song took us around the world. It took us to Asia, it took us to Australia. Wow. It changed our whole life. And that's where we give it a lot of grace. Is it like the most important identification of this band anymore? No. Are we still going to play it sometimes? Yes. And like, we're really thankful for that song. But I've learned to just treat it kind of like an old tattoo, where it's like, it was a moment. Maybe I got it when I was drunk, but it's still okay.
But
it's okay. I'm going to keep it on me.
Yeah.
And that's kind of that song. But we love it.
Let's talk about the song When You Know Someone. What was
Yeah.
the inspiration behind that? By the way, it's big and epic, and it just sounds wonderful on the radio. Congratulations
Thank
on the
you so
song. It's
much.
killer. Yeah.
That's kind of a song that we've been trying to write forever. And like, we've tried, like, there's like reminiscences of our first record where we've tried to tap into that song, but we never could crack it. But that song, it's special. It started with like a 4-bar loop that I made at home. I was listening to a lot of Bruce Springsteen at the time, which probably comes through a little bit. I was listening to a lot of Nebraska, but Nebraska's very like tight and insular and very like quiet record for Bruce. But I feel like I tried to create the Nebraska feeling, but expand it into like a Born in the USA kind of feeling. So we ended up going to the studio with Chase and Trent and us, and I just played the 4-bar loop and we started writing. And again, the best songs just kind of happen. You can't really control how it happens. It just like someone just started going, well, someone, and then the song's born. But in terms of the topic, I mean, that day was hard because we were still processing Mickey obviously leaving the band, and it was a very low point of making the album. The whole making of the album was pretty grief heavy and a lot of processing, a lot of crying. But that day in particular, we didn't know how to say what we wanted to say. And I remember Chase and Trent just like really holding our hand, being like, we'll help you. Don't worry. Just like if you want to chime in, but we're going to help you really like figure out what you want to say. And I remember Chase talking to Trent, just kind of giving him context, like, this is kind of where they're at right now. And like, that's why
They had like
because we
a
looked so deflated. We're like this, we're just like, we were little fragments of a band at that point.
Oh, yeah.
But the song's kind of about abandonment a little bit. Yeah.
They had like a text chat going the night before, because it was the first day, I think, or the second day or something. Yeah, it was the second day we were working with Trent, and like he showed me his like conversation with Chase, and he was like, yeah, the kids are really going through it right now.
Yeah.
And he was like, they're really down. Like, it was like so like sad, but it was also like really nice, because they were talking about us as if we were like these people that they literally just want to like have this like therapeutic session the next day with, because the first day we worked with was kind of like more of a fun song, and like that's cool. But it's like it was really special to have collaborators like just Chase and Trent on this album, because they're not people that are like looking for a hit or like looking to get something out of these days in the studio. Like Trent was kind of just like, when you know someone, you think you know someone. And like, it was in that moment, it all just clicked with us. And we're like, yeah, like that's the feeling. Like, and we need help. We need help to like get this out into the world, because like, I don't know, we blocked out, and then the song was written. But it was still such a great experience, because like it was like Rob said, so therapeutic, the whole beginning to end process. And that was one of the harder songs definitely to write.
Sure.
It sure was nice to hear you play. You talked about Nebraska, and the version you just did here was more of an acoustic version.
Yeah,
And
almost. Yeah, it's the second kind of. Yeah, we like to switch it up. I mean, with these kind of settings, it's nice to kind of present it in a more campfire, arguably way.
Yeah, these songs translate well that way, and I think it's fun for us to do versions like this.
Yeah.
On this record, and I feel like the trend won't stop. Like, we're probably going to continue to do versions of our songs like this. I feel like.
Yeah, these songs feel good in the lap,
Yeah.
Much more.
It's like what MTV Unplugged was when it first started, when
gosh.
bands would tell you about the songs.
I was
and do
just
the acoustic
watching a bunch of
versions.
those MTV Unplugged. Sometimes
They're so
when
good.
when I'm just laying in bed at the hotel, like going like MTV Unplugged playlists on YouTube, because they're so old now, but like there's some crazy ones. I just watched the Friday and like the Cure one.
I saw that one.
They're
That was great.
iconic. Yeah.
Just they just such an incredible time. But
I saw that you guys hit 1 billion streams.
Yeah.
What does that feel like? A billion? That's a lot. It's a big number.
A lot of numbers.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah, I don't know if it's something that we ever thought about. I think initially when I remember the first day one of our songs started getting a serious amount of traction, like more than just like family and friends listening.
Yeah.
And I think it was tossed into like a Spotify algorithm. And I think I remember being in Mike's basement looking at the computer, running upstairs being like, oh my God, like, I think it was Swim.
Yeah, it
I was
took
like,
off, yeah.
Swim is taking off. And it had like, I think it was either 3 or 30,000 streams in a day. And I was like, this is insane. This is the first time this has ever happened to us. And like, when things like that happen and there's like really initial big moments that are very exciting, like that's really cool, you know, because you're like, oh, like people are actually listening.
Right.
And I think we don't pay attention to the numbers as much. I mean, if anybody does in this band, it's probably me, but, but
we made like $10. Okay. It was sick. It was sick.
We got croissants.
I think it's
we got free
validating.
Starbucks that day.
I think it's validating to know that people are listening.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily about the number. It's about the fact that
it's the people behind the number.
People still care.
Yeah.
And they're still going to go and toss on, you know, their favorite song of ours or record or whatever. So.
You know, one thing that I think is kind of cool is you played 7th Street Entry here in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis a couple years ago, back in 2022. Yeah. Now, when you come back in October, you're playing the main room at First Avenue.
Yeah.
You know,
it's pretty
Purple
cool.
Rain. You know?
We're excited. Yeah, it's gonna be great.
We really love that venue. Also, side note, we've played it a couple of times with like other bands, and like it's a good spot. It's
a legendary room. I'm excited. I'm telling our front of house guy to sound check with I Want to Be Your Lover by Prince.
Oh, nice. That's a good idea.
And good covers always go over well.
Yeah.
Prince covers. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, we could throw something crazy in the set one day, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's nice chatting. It's the band Valley from Toronto, Canada. The new album is called Water the Flowers, Pray for a Garden, and that'll drop on August 30th. Congratulations on the new work, and it's nice chatting with you, and you sounded awesome.
Thank you so much.
By.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
The Current is public media made possible thanks to member support.